Good evening, I'm Steve Hensley. Severe storms have moved across the state today, leading to flash flooding and some damage, especially in Pulaski County after reports of a possible tornado in the Burnside area. We've also heard of traffic issues in the last hour or so on Interstate 75 and the Mountain Parkway. And we just learned the Mountain Parkway is closed at the 13-mile marker in Powell County due to a multi-vehicle collision. So these storms causing all kinds of problems today, and more storms are possible in the next few hours. And of course, our severe weather alert day continues. Brandon Robinson is with us this evening and has more on what to expect. Brandon, let's hope things calm down soon.
Steve, I missed the mornings. I want to go back. Things are much calmer for the moment, but we still have some active warnings across parts of the region tonight. We're going to keep an eye on those for you. Let's go back a few hours and kind of see where we've been already on the satellite and radar, giving you a heads up there of what we've seen coming, and there's still more coming. So again, we're not done with this threat just yet. It'll be with us for several more hours. Right now, we're watching a cluster of storms in the southern parts of the area that are not too bad at the moment, and we're watching a cluster of storms moving through parts of the Big Sandy. In the middle of those, drier air. Right now, a severe thunderstorm warning for parts of Floyd, Johnson, and Martin counties. That is with the tornado possible, and we're continuing to watch that there until 5:45, so another few minutes on that one. That is the only active warning that we have right now. There's the radar picture of it, so you can kind of get a better view, but you still see, again, anywhere with a little bit of notches out there toward Inez, they're probably getting tore up right now with the possibility for some rain coming through there and some heavy wind, so no warning out that way right now, but we're continuing to watch that. Heading over back towards Somerset, they're getting some more soaking rain out there. No warnings at the moment, and we continue to see that rain down into parts of East Tennessee. That tornado watch does continue until 8 o'clock tonight for the entire region, so do not let your guard down. It's a very important thing to remember that we are not out of this yet. And as you see there on Buffalo Mountain, we are definitely not out of this yet because there is the sunshine. Temperature's a little cooler, but they will rebound if that sunshine sticks around for too long. 66 right now, Somerset and Monticello, even with the rain. And we also see a lot of upper 50s and low 60s out there. But again, even though we drop into the 50s, I think it's going to be several more hours before we can really wrap this up. We still have the possibility for a hail threat once the low gets a little closer to us, which won't happen until later this evening. The rest of the forecast coming up in a little bit. Steve?
All right, Brandon, a little more information on the crash on I-75. We're told from the Mount Vernon Fire Department in Rockcastle County that I-75 is closed at the 58-mile marker due to a crash involving multiple semi-trucks. It's not known if there are any injuries, but again, this is at the 58-mile marker in Rockcastle County on I-75, so we have a major crash on 75, and we also have what appears to be a major crash on the Mountain Parkway in Powell County that has traffic backed up for miles. We don't know about injuries in either crash, but obviously a traffic nightmare if you're traveling on both of those major roadways this afternoon. Undoubtedly, the weather may have led to those issues. And of course, we'll get back to Brandon if we need to as we go along, and we'll have some video of what appears to be at least a funnel cloud in Pulaski County. We'll have that for you at 6. And again, we'll get back to Brandon as soon as we need to. Well, COVID cases are once again on the rise across the United States. Now a team of researchers from the University of Cambridge and Imperial College London in the UK are discovering that for some people, the effects of the virus on the brain can be devastating. CBS's Ian Lee reports.
As people fight for their lives with extreme cases of COVID, the virus is also damaging their brains in some cases.
Cognitive decline that you would see for someone between the ages of about 50 and 70 years.
Researchers in the UK discovered that the virus is causing some people to lose their mental capacity, equivalent to aging 20 years. Using a state-of-the-art computer program, they tested 46 patients' abilities in language, memory, and concentration.
So the more severe the initial illness, the greater the scale of the cognitive problems.
Some theories for why this happens includes a lack of oxygen to the brain, along with inflammation. But the effects of aging so quickly can be life-changing.
The impact of that on your ability to cope with everyday life or your job would be pretty substantial.
Can you recover from this?
Quite a few of these patients may not be able to, for example, return to work. Some of them may not ever actually completely recover their cognitive faculties.
Researchers insist this only affects a small number of people who've had COVID.
Is there anything I can do to prevent this?
Probably the best thing you could do to try and prevent this happening is to make sure you're fully vaccinated.
Scientists add vaccines not only reduce the severity of COVID, but also the risks of brain damage. Ian Lee, CBS News, London.
Researchers say their next step is to look into ways to help people not only cope, but also to see if there are ways they can reverse the damage. Scores of workers who left their jobs during the pandemic are coming back, and they're being called Boomerang Employees. A boomerang, someone who left an employer before choosing to return. Boomerangs like Jim Klimas made up 4.3% of all U.S. job switches last year, up from 3.3% pre-pandemic, according to LinkedIn. Recent labor stats show the average tenure with employers is 4.1 years and only 2.8 years for 25 to 34-year-olds. The Airbnb market is already hot in Louisville, but with the Kentucky Derby back in full force, it's on fire. The city is such a trending topic that Airbnb says guests from Boston, Chicago, New York, Houston, and the list goes on, have booked to stay for the weekend. Airbnb superhost Diane Warner says her 5-suite rental on West Main is booked, with guests paying $2,000 to $5,000 per night, with a minimum 3-night stay.
It's crazy. We have been booked since June of 2021.
And Airbnb spokesperson Haven Thorne says in 2019, before the pandemic and with tourism at its peak, Louisville hosts earned even more, collectively making $2.5 million. And with Derby's grand return this year, Airbnb expects local hosts to meet or maybe even beat those numbers. Health officials are worried about more than 100 cases of severe and unexplained hepatitis in children. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention reported more than 100 cases in 25 states. So far, 5 kids have died and 14% needed liver transplants. Almost all of them have had to be hospitalized. It's still a mystery what's causing the disease, and investigators say there may not be a single cause. Hepatitis is a general term used to describe any swelling of the liver. Viruses, toxins, and autoimmune diseases are among a variety of things that can lead to it. First Lady Jill Biden is on a 4-day visit to Eastern Europe to meet with military personnel and Ukrainian civilians displaced by the ongoing Russian invasion. Ukraine says Russia is now stepping up attacks on a steel plant in Ukraine's strategic port city to score a key victory. Russian forces unleashed a fresh barrage of attacks on Mariupol's last pocket of resistance by ground and air. Speaking to a British policy expert, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says the Russian onslaught is keeping critical aid from reaching people in the southern port city.
If they destroy them, I don't think we can have any diplomatic talks with them after that.
Intelligence officials believe Russian President Vladimir Putin is trying to conquer Mariupol to claim victory when Russia celebrates the defeat of Nazi Germany on May 9th. On Sunday, President Biden will meet virtually with Ukraine's president and G7 leaders to discuss a unified response to Russia's continued aggression. As the Russia-Ukraine conflict continues to put pressure on global supply, oil has climbed back over $100 per barrel. AAA said the nationwide average for a gallon of regular gas was back up to $4.19 this week. Climbing energy costs and a tight labor market have contributed to higher consumer prices. Some encouraging news, though. The U.S. unemployment rate stayed steady at 3.6% in April. The WNBA's new season tips off Friday, but the detainment of superstar Brittney Griner is weighing heavily on the league. Russian authorities in Moscow arrested Griner in February. Griner, who plays for the Phoenix Mercury, is accused of smuggling cannabis oil in her luggage, which is punishable by up to 10 years in prison. It remains unconfirmed what substance was actually in the vape pen she had. To highlight her detainment, every WNBA team will display a special court decal with Griner's initials and number. Earlier this week, the U.S. State Department classified her arrest as a wrongful detention. Griner is a two-time Olympic gold medalist, and the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee is also working to get her released. After Chloe Alvarado had her son Milo, she was diagnosed with perinatal depression. Now she is using her experience to raise awareness and share her results from an alternative treatment that could help other struggling moms. Chloe took part in a bright light therapy clinical trial at Northwell Health in New York. For 30 minutes every morning, she exposed herself to specialized light, nicknamed Sun in a Box, to help reset her circadian rhythm.
That sleep and wake cycle is disrupted in women who are depressed in pregnancy, and it's by retraining, resetting the clock to where it should be, that it is to relieve the symptoms of depression.
Combined with antidepressants and traditional therapy, Chloe says the difference was night and day. 4 hospitals are conducting the light therapy study, and the National Institutes of Health is sponsoring the trial. She's often taking care of everyone else before even thinking of herself, but moms need help staying healthy too. Dr. Susan Chang is a cardiologist and often sees the stress moms can put on their bodies. She says it can weigh on their health and worsen underlying health conditions. Chang says part of staying healthy is recognizing the stress, asking for help from family members, and accepting it. She says you also have to help yourself, get enough sleep, and prioritize personal time, and don't feel guilty for taking it. Coming up on Mountain News at 5:30, the U.S. Senate passed a bill to end daylight saving time, but it still needs to pass the House. Some say there are pros and cons to this happening.
And we continue to track the severe threat across the mountains tonight. We'll have more on that in the latest warnings in just a few minutes.